Let's make sure that you are doing all those kind of things. So again, that's www.brooksbrothersconsulting.com with Brooks Brothers Consulting Inc. Today's episode is episode number 42. I'm very excited about it. We're going to talk about dealing with adversity. So dealing with adversity, many of us have to do that sometimes on a routine basis. And we want to talk about some of the best practices around dealing with adversity and even my own personal challenges with dealing with that as well. But first, you know what we got to do? We got to turn the music up. 1, 2, get this go back. Bill Stimler, how you doing, my man? Max Jones, how you doing? Sharon Foster, Leroy Richardson, Jose, what's going on, brother? Good brother there in the Nashville, Franklin area. Steve Stone, how you doing? Sherman Brown, what's going on, brother? Michelle Thomas, how you doing? Thank y'all so much for joining. I really appreciate it. And we're going to get right back to it as we get through the music. But again, I'm here at the Hub Coffee House, 6000 Briarcrest Avenue here in East Memphis, Tennessee. So all right. So again, thank y'all so much for joining on today's episode. Today's Friday, April the 6th. I don't know what's going on with spring. We had daylight savings time a couple weeks ago, and spring has yet to show up and kind of stay. It seems like winter's trying to stick around here when it comes to weather here in Memphis. So it's still a little chilly. We're still getting a good bit of rain. But nonetheless, we're going to continue to make today incredible for all of us and continue to build on the positive things that we're doing. But we're at episode 42. Thank y'all so much. A lot of podcasts don't get to do 42 episodes. And so we're very grateful and very inspired by today. So we got some people coming by. Kevin, what's going on? How you doing, man? Yep, doing good. So we're live here, man. We're doing the episode. So I know it's coming your way. We need to get you on. All right. I'll see you later. Yeah, so it's great when you meet people here. I'm at the Hub Coffee House again, 6000 Briarcrest Avenue here in Memphis. So episode number 42, man. Thank y'all so much for getting here. We just started this podcast back in August of 2017. And so we're excited to be here. Tremendous week on this week. Obviously, Memphis was front and center stage with Martin Luther King Jr. celebrations going on around the city. It has been now 50 years since his untimely assassination here in Memphis, particularly at the Lorraine Motel, which is downtown, kind of close to South Memphis area here in Memphis, Tennessee. And so many of you that are listening on the podcast may have become familiar with Memphis in some cases from things like that, from the assassination of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., who 50 years ago was here to fight alongside sanitation workers for equal rights, and unfortunately met his demise. And there was a lot of great celebration, a lot of remembrance of his ideology and his speeches and a lot of the work that he did fighting for, again, civil rights for people here in the United States. And of course, there were many people who fought alongside him and fought with him, and in some cases fought against him during that entire time. But I want to touch on something real quick, and then we want to get into the topic as it relates to that. So what you saw on Wednesday, I believe, was a lot of great speeches. A lot of folks came into town, some people with some celebrity status and things like that came into town and wanted to lead the charge around the remembrance of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. One of the things that was talked about on Facebook with some of my friends and that I agreed with, and that's part of the ongoing challenge is, we've got to get to the action. What I saw Wednesday was a lot of, I don't know if I want to use the word grandstanding, but there are oftentimes personal agendas that get interwoven with the thought of remembrance and things like that. There's ways that for people to integrate their personal platform, and that's always going to be the case. So I'm not necessarily knocking that in its own right. But what you saw a lot was a lot of people giving speeches, a lot of people trying to give their own I have a dream speech or their own Easter speech. You had some people that were trying to show how much their speaking voice or their preaching voice could sound like Dr. King's and all that kind of stuff. And I think, one of the things that really was missed was the economic vitality, the economic planning, the economic execution that Dr. King spoke a lot of, particularly in his latter years prior to his assassination, was economic equality. And that's one area that still has not hit home and registered. And there was really no, at least public speak of what's some of the economic plan. How do you support entrepreneurship and small business within a community so that people have more of a level playing field to be able to edify their situation and edify their life. And so I think that was a missed opportunity. Of course, there's a lot of people that can participate in something like that and help drive that. That's not something that you look for the government to do or look for Roland Martin or Angela Rye or anybody like that to really do. That should come from the people. But I was a little disappointed that there was a lot of just speeches, there was music, and we had a great time with it. It was a great time to remember. But then the next day and going forward, and as we get to year 51, year 52, and ongoing, what's the economic plan, and how are you controlling the means of production? Listen, nothing wrong with the street level battles and things like that. We have to have that. But if you think of civil rights came from a two-folded battle. There was a battle in the streets, and then you pooled the resources so you could get to Washington and hold people accountable to what needs to be done to support people and have equal rights. So you have to fight the battle at two areas. Listen, being broke don't mean you can't have the resource conversation. And I'm going to say that again. Being broke doesn't mean you can't have the resource conversation. Oftentimes when folks don't have resources isn't just money, but money is a part of it. People don't have it, so they circumnavigate that conversation because they know that's a buck stop for them personally and maybe even professionally. That's the wrong approach. If you think about what Dr. King them do, how did he get to the White House to have face-to-face conversations with President Kennedy and President Johnson? You have to have resources, right? People have to pool their money, not just on Sunday morning. They had to pool their money throughout so that Dr. King and his team could get there in front and have face-to-face conversations, the accountability conversation, not just protesting and marching and things like that in the streets. That's one area of it. You got to have a twofold or two-prong approach. And right now, there's not enough of the other approach. There's a lot in the streets of reacting to really terrible situations, but that's not where the battle is fought. That's where the awareness is brought. That's not where the battle is fought, per se, by itself, as far as instituting change. So I wanted to say that kind of briefly as to jump the podcast off as it was related to MLK 50. Today's podcast, again, I want to talk about dealing with adversity. And this subject, I got to give credit where credit is due. And my guy, Andre, I want to leave it at that. My guy, Andre, who's a good banking partner of mine for several years, been able to see his career grow and blossom in what he's doing now. And he's doing commercial lending here in the Memphis area. So, Andre, shout out to you. But he and I had a conversation, and it was very interesting because he spoke to dealing with adversity and how he's coming across a lot of business owners and things like that who are kind of dealing with losses that they're taking and First quarter may not have been what they expected, and that kind of thing. And so it's tough for some people. A lot of people are experiencing still some tough times. The economy being better, it is better for certain people and not others, and things like that. And that's a whole podcast in itself. But I want to talk about some of the best practices around dealing with adversity, because adversity. So one of the first things that I'll say about adversity is expect it. Expect that things are not always going to go the way that you set them to go. They're not always going to go the way that you want, right? Whether that's people, whether that's yourself, whether that's opportunities or resources. I can't tell you how many times I've given y'all really good presentation, lay out things the way people want it, and still get a no, right? Or get a yes, but then something that impacts my ability to do something or to deliver or whatnot, whatever that is. And so I really want you all, and I'm including myself in that, you all, to really understand ways that we can deal with adversity as it comes. So that's my 5 primary tips. If anybody wants to join in on the podcast, down here at the bottom, and for those that are listening on the podcast, we're on Facebook Live as well. So down here at the bottom, you have some options down there that you can select and be invited on, or you can comment here on Facebook Live. You can comment, and I will invite you on. It'll split the screen, so I'll be on one side, you'll be on the other. And if you happen to be somewhere where you're not supposed to be or whatnot, you'll be on video. So don't tattletale on yourself. I know how some of y'all operate. Some of y'all be places y'all not supposed to be, or y'all told someone you go in here and then y'all be there, and some of y'all play those kind of games like that. Josh Midget, what's going on? Miss Dabney, how are you? Ronald Johnson, Danny Forrester, how y'all doing? Good afternoon to you. So anyway, you can join into the podcast if you want to join that way here on Facebook Live. I invite you to do so, or you can simply comment if you don't want to join live with me to have this discussion. One of the things with adversity, again, I said this just a minute ago, but I want to continue on that point, is you've got to expect adversity. Adversity should not be something that just knocks the wind out of you because you didn't expect it. Expect that thing, and it's not that things go wrong because you set out to do that, or people are setting out to sabotage you or do wrong or this or that. That's not always the case. It can be, but it's not always the case, right? Sometimes things just don't line up. The connections just don't meet. And there are things that you have to deal with because we're in an ever-moving environment, and sometimes as things move, right, they don't always line up. And so expect that, and don't get thrown off your rocker. You got to have some stability and confidence within yourself that you're not always going to be thrown off when adversity comes. Even when you're going through good times, expect that tough times are going to come. That's just life as we know it on this side of life. So what I'm speaking to is my first area of dealing with adversity, which is having the right mindset. You've got to be able to train your mind. It's not about all the emotion of it, right? Kill the emotion of it. When you deal with people, the easiest way to control somebody is to appeal to their emotion. That's what they do. They appeal to people's emotion, right? That's how you can impoverish people. That's how you profit off the poor, right? Is you play to their emotional mindset. What's the emotional mindset? The things that they're fearful of, the things that they're insecure of, the things that they desire, right? One of the ways that you keep people poor is you keep showing them how to be rich. And you talk about money in terms of the acquisition of material things, right? That's what happens in a lot of these different industries and things like that. You can profit off keeping people poor because they're always aspiring to the material side of it and the acquisition of money for their persona and to acquire things. What happens? They never obtain it. Right? It's that carrot that they keep dangling and they keep moving it. They keep moving the goalposts, like you might say in sports. They keep moving the boundaries. And so it's mindset, right? You can play off people's mindset, keep them impoverished. And if you keep them impoverished, you keep them fighting against each other. So they never aspire to be outside of what they are. So you got to start, when you're dealing with adversity, you got to start with the mindset, right? So the mindset is you just got to train your mind that adversity, there's nothing, everybody's going to deal with it to varying levels and degrees. There's no person that's just had no smooth sailing. Even if you had a silver spoon in your mouth, you still do. How many people, some of y'all can talk about people that grew up with a silver spoon in their mouth and still blew their brains out at some point, or they end up drugs or alcohol. I grew up in the Mound. I went to school in Germantown. I'll tell you, some of these folks out in Germantown, they be ready to blow their brains. They have a $500,000 house that's 4,000 square feet, healthy children, great job, good business, healthy parents, not no tax bill. They have all the things that poor people may aspire to have, and still there's something broken in them because the mindset. Having a bank account don't mean nothing. Anybody can get a nice bank account, and be leery of folks bragging about money because they really don't have it. Some of these folks that talk about having money and all this kind of stuff is because somebody died, they got an insurance policy. They living off somebody else's moves or legacy. So don't get into all of that. But you got to have the right mindset. And in writing some of these things down is you got to challenge your beliefs. You got to challenge the critical thinking around adversity as it comes, how you've dealt with it in the past, and realizing that it don't last all the ways. Adversity is for a season, unless you don't have the right mindset. Now, you can make it perpetual if you keep a poor mindset. Mindset being you allow it to consume you. You start questioning your confidence. You start questioning your ability to get things done. You question whether you'll ever experience success again. Life is always going to challenge you in that way. Life doesn't always come to you with things that it knows you can overcome. If you never had a problem with alcohol, life don't come to you with alcohol. You might have had a problem with women. You've had a problem with men. You had a problem with children. You've had a problem with this or with that or whatever vice that is. That's what it comes to you with. It comes to you with the things that it knows it's going to challenge you, that you do have an issue with. Those are the things that it comes with. So you got to have the right mindset to be able to overcome. It's got to be positive. You got to surround yourself with positive people, not people whining all the time. Now, you get these men here, even just around here in the city, they whine all the time. They whine more than, some of the little kids. They're always whining about what someone in some other industry is doing. They whining about this. They whining about that. Their business never grows because they're always whining. They're always watching what somebody's doing or not doing. Y'all not doing business with me. So, a lot of people are not doing business with a lot of people. You got to make your business attractive. So you got to have the right mindset. You're not going to be negative and then breed the positivity. So if you're facing adversity, you're not going to overcome adversity by being negative, by hanging around negative people, by having negative thoughts in your mindset about, other people, about yourself, about your situation. So the first thing is clear the air. So one of the things I do as a best practice when I first get hit with adversity, I get bad news, right? And there's a whole lot of places you can get bad news from. You get bad news from family, friends, business partners, MLGW. For those of you that are here in Memphis, that's Memphis Light Gas and Water, or Memphis Light Gas and Robbery, however you want to call them, depending on what your role is with them. The rent payment, the mortgage company, the people at the school, the people at the job. But whenever adversity hits, right, one of the first things that I do is I take a step back. All right, let me just kind of get outside myself and let me take a more holistic view of this. Okay, understanding that again, it doesn't last always, but okay, how did I get here, right? And it's not about pointing the finger at, oh, because this person said this or this person did that or I did. I'm not pointing the finger at myself or anybody else. Here's an opportunity, and I'm going to talk about this in a minute. Here's an opportunity, right, for me to show who I am, to show my character, and to teach someone else, because experience is the best teacher, right? People say that. So here's a chance for me to show and kind of manifest how this can be overcome, right? For me and for somebody else, that I can show and teach somebody else. If you don't think of it that way, and you're thinking, oh, woe is me, and they don't like me, and they this and they that, and woo and I that, you won't be successful. So everything, it starts in the mind. It starts in the mind, filters to the heart, spews out the mouth, right? So that's the way it goes. The kids do that little song where they were head, shoulders, knees, and toes. That's how it goes, right? The mind to the heart, from the heart comes out in your actions and then your speech. Okay? So get your mind together. Get your mind right, as we've always said. The second thing is you got to stop making excuses. Okay? If you make just excuses about, again, who's this and who's that, how I got here, and it's because of this, and it's that, and my mama that, and my daddy this, and auntie that, cousin this, and the boss this, the supervisor, the team lead, the children, the teacher, the pastor, the this, whoever it is, you're always making excuses. That's going to feed into your mindset, to the heart, out the mouth. That's why you see people post this negative stuff all the time. And the ball never moves, just like in sports. They never move the ball down the field. The way they were in 2015 is the same way they in 2016, the same way they in 2017, and that's the same way they go in 2018. Nothing changes. If nothing changes, nothing changes. Here's a quote. Excuses are the lies we tell ourselves when we're too afraid of the future. Excuses are the lies we tell ourselves when we're too afraid of the future. So when we're afraid of moving outside of our adversity to what's the next opportunity and what's the learning opportunity, that's when we start developing excuses. And if you constantly tell yourself those lies, they become your truth. Notice I say your truth. I didn't say the truth. They become your truth. Right? So you have to stop telling yourself the lies of excuses. It become kind of a self-fulfilling prophecy. If you don't achieve your dreams, it will be because you made the decision to be detained by excuses. That's my second quote. If you don't achieve dreams, it will be because you made the decision to be excuses. This is where people make themselves to be slaves, even when they're out in the open and free. Some people will stay behind bars, even if I open the door and say, you can go. They'll still stay there in the cell. Then they do that with their mindset, right? They make excuses. It's always everybody else's fault, right? Those are losing people. Losing teams. When I played basketball, when I was on teams that were successful, we were successful not always because we were the most talented team, and I played on some really talented teams with some cats that could really ball when I played basketball, and had some really good success, whether it's at the high school level and even beyond that to the college level, and certainly when I had a chance to go to camp at the pro level. Talented cats that can play. Okay? Winning came from what was our mindset going into it? Did we believe in what we were doing? Did we believe in each other? Did we trust each other? Teams that I wasn't successful on, guess what we did? We pointed the finger. It was always when the other team scores or we miss a shot, it's his fault. It's her fault. Not mine. Not about what I had to do in it. I'm always pointing the finger. And my joy is everybody else's responsibility. Right? Those are losing mindset people. Don't matter how much money you make, don't matter how good your job is, how many degrees you hang on the wall, how many acronyms you add after your name. doesn't matter. Those are loser people. People that are always, they never take accountability to their situation, and they look for everybody else to be responsible for their joy. In adversity, again, I'll give the quote again. If you don't achieve your dreams, it will be because you made the decision to be detained by excuses. The decision, you made the conscious decision to do that. Nobody made that decision for you. I'm not saying that you can't be upset about things, you can't stew about things, you can't time to cry and sad. You should do that to release. One thing to release, and there's another thing to hold. All you're doing is, again, like that quote's been given 100 times. Y'all, all you're doing is you're trying to hurt someone else by drinking poison. Okay, you're not going to do that. You can't take poison to yourself to try to hurt the next man or woman. That's not going to happen. You got to stop making the excuses. Excuses are the lies we tell ourselves when we're too afraid of the future. Fear and insecurity. When we're afraid of the future, we make excuses, right? So to overcome adversity, you've got to kill off making the excuses. Take the ownership for yourself. If you got into a bad relationship, it's not always that person. Maybe it is. Maybe it's something they did or said that offended or hurt you. Okay? You don't have to blame yourself for that, right? That's part of life. People disappoint people. You've disappointed people before. You get these people that think that they get disappointed. They ain't never done nothing to nobody, of course, right? They've never disappointed. And some of that's because you never put yourself in a position of leadership, too. See, some people are slick. They like to, put themselves in a position where they're always the one telling somebody else to do something or to have something, and they're just kind of, they do what they want to do. So they help as they want to help, but they're never asked to do anything. Other people put themselves in a servitude position where they're often asked to do things. And so, sure, you're going to come up short. Everybody here that's listening on this podcast, that's watching on Facebook, has disappointed somebody, has come up short, and has been enough for someone to say, F you, I'm out. Everybody, including me, right? So stop making the excuses and always pointing the finger. Take ownership. You find so much, you learn so much about yourself when you take ownership. And don't be ashamed of that. Just because you're taking ownership of it, don't be ashamed. Hey, listen, you can be transparent with that. We all screw up, right? Everybody. And if you think that you don't, you're going to be in for a rude awakening pretty soon. So stop making excuses. Third thing is you got to have faith. Okay? Now, I'm not about to get religious on y'all about faith and all that kind of thing. This isn't about, I'm not saying faith in terms of your religious belief so much and, who's this and who's that. That's not even into this play. It takes more energy to live a life full of fear than to live one full of faith. It takes more energy to be fearful than it is to be faithful. More energy, if you can believe that. It takes more energy to sit there and stew. It's just like medical people will tell you, you use more muscles frowning than you do smiling, right? It's the same thing. To fear is to convince yourself to live in the walls you build yourself. To have faith is to convince yourself to embrace change. Change is going to come. I'm not Sam Cooke, and I'm not about to mess up his song singing "Change Go Come." They did that on Wednesday. But change is going to come. Change is the only constant, right? If you think that you're going to go through life and it's just going to be the same, how many of y'all are the same as y'all were when you were 2 years old? Right? Some of y'all saying you're listening to the podcast or you're watching, and you're now 30 years old, you're 40 years old, you're 50 years old. You're not the same that you were. You've evolved, right? Your thinking has evolved. Your thinking's evolved from 2017, from 1999, from 1984. Hell, even from last week. Things happen and you evolve your thinking. Your faith needs to be in your ability to conquer your fear, right? When you lose the job, when the business isn't going the way that you have it to go, when the kids aren't having perfect report cards and things like that, when someone's picking on your kid's picking on somebody, right? You got to have the faith. And this is where people often miss the wagon, because when they don't have the faith, they want the sure thing. I want to be able to cuss somebody out. I want to be able to say this to this person, that to that person. And you may get your rush. It may give you something nice to talk with your friend. Oh, girl, I cussed him out. I cussed her out. Yeah. Nothing changed, though. And the only thing you made yourself out to be is now you've created enemies, right, by lashing out because you didn't have the faith to overcome. You want the joy of masking in your fear, right? Things are going to change. Things come, right? Best practices with this is you got to hang around positive people who think in terms of they have the faith in themselves to overcome. When adversity comes, no matter how big or small, do you have the faith that it can be overcome? Virtually everything that you encounter has some level of solution. You may not like it. It may not be the most comfortable, but you have some level of solution, y'all. With everything. Everything has a fix. When I'm managing teams in the banking world, there's very few things that someone could do to screw something up that couldn't be reversed or couldn't be redone. It might have been painful. It might have been costly. It is certainly not ideal, but anything could be reversed or redone. Same when you face adversity. There's always a solution. Again, that solution may not be enjoyable. It may require you to move here. It may require you to stay here. It may require you to look at this, change this. Usually either you're having to stop doing something that you've been doing or start doing something that you haven't been doing. Right? Stop something that you've been doing or start doing something that you haven't been doing. Both of those things come as a result of change, and people don't always have the faith in that because they bound themselves by their past, what mama said, what daddy said, what this thing. So they're past the bars to the jail cell have been open and they're still sitting there. They won't come out. It's kind of like, after emancipation where, a few years after emancipation and folks are telling folks, like, you're free now, you can go. And you still have folks sitting there like, go and do what? This is all I know. Fear. They don't want to go do and have better, even though they've been fighting for it for hundreds of years. It's the same mindset. People have this mindset where they don't have the faith in themselves to be able to move forward and overcome and have peace. Find the peace within the adversity. Look for the learning lessons. Don't just focus on what happened, or some people want to become journalists within their adversity, right? They don't have the faith. They want to feel like they got to get every answer. I got to know why he did this. I got to know why she did that. I got to know, they offended me. They said this. I didn't like that. I got to find out all the answers. And then once you find out all the answers, what? Then what? So you found out that they ran off with another woman, or she ran off with another man because of whatever. Pick a thing. Then what? Once you know that, then what? That's just give you more to talk about on the phone with somebody else. It gives you more to stew over, to cry about, to break your own heart. What does that do? So you get the answers to find out what's the learning opportunity. Not to add to your fear or to your pain. Some people love to sit there, just like, there's people that love to sit there and cut on themselves. Some people do that, literally. Sometimes people do that figuratively. They like to sit there and cut on themselves. Stop doing that. Have faith. Fourth thing, don't take no for an answer. I've had businesses that have done well. I have businesses that have not done well. I'm going to give you a quote. While some would lie down and let their dreams float away, you have to know that you can achieve yours. You feel the greatest sense of urgency to get up and keep trying. If I would have just given up in my disappointment, I would have never lived the life of my dreams. If you allow your disappointment to consume you, right? Your disappointment in people. And some people, they get disappointed by people, they want to write people off. That's an easy thing to do, right? People suck, people disappoint, I hate people, blah, blah, blah. And that's fine in its sense, but what you're really doing is you're not defining what type of people. You're just blanketing all people. All people suck. Let me just hang out here with my dog and blah, blah, blah. I only talk to people through social media. I don't like dealing with them. Again, that's getting back to your fear. Okay? You've got to learn that as adversity comes, you're going to not just take no for an answer. Like I talked about with businesses. I call people all the time. I could have the best resume, the best process, the best price. I might get a no. No is situational. When you get a no, it's not a no for eternity. It's no right now. Usually what no means is I need more information. I don't have enough information to give you a yes. Either because I'm not half paying attention to it. I haven't found a value, which is most of it. I haven't found a value in it for me right now for this situation. It doesn't solve a problem for me enough. You're in business to solve a problem. It's not to make money and to do all this. That's a byproduct. You're in business to solve problems. You solve problems for people. I'm here at the coffee house. Every one of y'all can make coffee at home. So why do you come up here? They solve a problem for you. What's your problem? You want coffee when you're out and about. You want coffee when you're sitting here working. There are people up here having great conversation. They're interacting. They're co-working. They're doing different things. While you're here, you're probably going to want you a cup of coffee. That may be something you want. They've got great coffee here. They provide water, smoothies, all that kind of thing. So they're solving a problem. For them solving that problem, they charge you an amount to compensate for their time and that resource. But you got to learn to be able to say no to things that aren't positive, and you got to be able to learn to not just accept no for an answer for everything, to just make yourself disappointed. Trials will occur in life. Another quote, trials will occur in life, but endurance requires you never stop trying. Trials are one of the greatest teaching tools of life. Trials are one of the greatest teaching tools in life. You have trials so that you can learn and your character evolves. For those of y'all that are looking at relationships, at the end of the day, you can look like you can look like Holly Berry, you can look like Idris, whoever whatever y'all want to do. You can have a pocket full of money, you can be broke, you can have whatever you want. At the end of the day, it comes down to character. What is a person's character, particularly when hard times come, when adversity comes? Adversity shows character. Listen, when I played ball, right, I could tell if in the times when we are up on teams, we up by 30, 40, 50 points, you can see the character of the guys on the losing team, on the losing end. I could tell by how they begin to play, how they interact with each other, their body language, things like that they look defeated. There was this kid that was at Craigmont. I don't remember his name. He kind of looked like Jim Carrey. So if Chill's watching or somebody like that, Willie Jackson, he might remember this cat. White guy, looked like Jim Carrey, man. Funniest thing ever. But I remember we were beating the living stuffing out of Craigmont. What up, Chris Eagleston and some of y'all Craigmont alums and things like that. We're beating the hell out of Craigmont one game. Varsity basketball game. And Steve Jackson, matter of fact, my guy Steve Jackson was playing in this game. He's not a Facebooker, man. I wish he was on here. I'd love to get at him on this. But late 90s, we're beating the hell out of Craigmont. There was this kid that looked like Jim Carrey that never would stop playing. I don't even know if he showered every day. He always had this funny smell. And he was maybe about 6'1", 6'2". Not much of a three-point shooter, could shoot the mid-range game, had a nice kind of weave kind of game, kind of slithery kind of game in the paint, that kind of thing. And he was one of the few cats out there with Steve and some of these other cats that I came up with that was still playing even when they're down. He played like he still believed they could win. We up by 37, 38 points. This cat still believed. He's still fighting, because not that he didn't know the inevitable that he was going to lose this game, but he's setting himself up for the next game and for the next time we play. He's still out there talking crazy. We up by 37. He scored basket. I'm pointing at the scoreboard like, man, shut up. You know what I mean? Shut the hell up. Look up. Look at the scoreboard. Look at what we're doing. He's still playing. He didn't care about that. That did not stop him. He didn't take no for that answer. Sure, he lost the game. We end up winning, but he set the stage for the next game where they beat us at our gym, because he was setting the stage. He set the tone for his next game for himself and his mindset. Remember what I talked about? And he set the tone for the next game, man. And that's what it takes. You can't take no for an answer. Number 5, the last thing is, let the success energize you. Here's a quote. With every success, we are strengthened and empowered for greater victories. You cannot become enslaved by disappointments. You must realize that every disappointment is being engineered for your destiny. Y'all have seen me for years here on Facebook. I use the hashtag legacy living. Living without the G. So I don't have the G on the end. Legacy living. I'm going to say this again. With every success, we are strengthened and empowered for greater victories. You cannot become enslaved by disappointments. You must realize that every disappointment is being engineered for your destiny. So when I say legacy living, that's what we're living for. We develop our legacy while we're living. When you're no longer around in this form of life, that's fixed. Now your legacy becomes just like your character, just like your culture. Shout out to my guy Jack Simon, who has the hashtag create your culture, because that's what you're doing. You create your culture, you build your legacy, and then it becomes what people say about it when you're no longer here. So the charge for all of us is, while we're here and while we're living, you got to build on it. But as you're dealing with adversity, understand that the successes are going to come. You're going to get through whatever your adversity is. You have to learn from it. Otherwise, what do you got? You find yourself right back in it. But you've got to learn from it, but let the success energize you. Don't become seduced by it, but let it empower you, as the quote says, to go to greater, bigger and greater victories. Kantar Macklin, he knows about hooping, man. I know Kantar down there in Whitehaven, he was doing this thing. Monterio, how you doing? Sarah Du Bois, how you doing? Miss Nicole, how you doing? Kimberly Brooks, all the Mrs. done made it on. Definitely. Zane Samuels, how you doing, my man? L, how you doing? Jerry Bobo, how you doing? What's up to all of y'all? So, those are kind of 5 things. If I could go through to give you the headlines, so you got to have the right mindset. You got to stop making excuses. You got to have faith in yourself and faith in your ability to overcome. Don't make no for an answer, and be able to tell people no when you need to, and let the success energize you. So I'm hoping these things help you all with dealing with adversity and things like that. I faced adversity, on a number of fronts. I posted one on Facebook about my Walmart adversity that I got a lot of great feedback, several years ago, in dealing with a situation at Walmart. So you can check that on my Facebook page. But, what do y'all think about this? Y'all email me. Y'all can inbox me here on Facebook. Make sure you go to www.themybpodcast.com to check out more of the podcast. SoundCloud, iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, iHeartRadio, all those places where you can catch this podcast and other episodes. But if you've got an opinion, you've got maybe some other best practices that you'd like to share, I'd like to be able to post those on the Minding Your Business podcast Facebook page. So definitely send those to me. But I want to kind of leave you all with this. Stop making excuses. Stop pointing the finger at people for your adversity. And stop beating yourself up for adversity. We all sometimes don't make the best of decisions. Other people may not always make the best decisions and things like that as it relates to interacting with us. That's going to happen. But don't allow it to make you cold. Don't allow it to squinch your lovingness. Don't allow it to cause it to where you beat yourself up and you start having depressed feelings about yourself. Know that it works. Adversity works to strengthen your character so that when the good times come and when you have success, you can appreciate it. You can appreciate things a little bit more and be that much more of a resource and advocate to somebody else. We're all here in charge to serve. No matter what your title is, no matter how much money you deposit in the bank or don't deposit in the bank, no matter what part of town you live in, we're all here to serve, right? And we're here to help each other and have a better environment and help others be successful. Particularly as we develop skill sets and knowledge and things like that, we're then charged to be able to share that with others. You're going to have adversity. And I want y'all to know that you may have it now, you may just be coming out of it, but you're going to have adversity. Everything's not going to go smooth. Everything's not always going to line up the way you set out for it to. Expect that. However, you've got the capacity to demonstrate an ability to overcome adversity. Adversity should be something that you just kind of laugh off. You set yourself up. You go through it. You take your lumps, but you don't let that make you become cold. That's where you take the L. Because eventually you get out of the adversity. But if you use that to make yourself cold towards yourself, to those closest to you, and you're always carrying the past with you, that's like trying to go, for those that fly, you're trying to go through TSA with a bag full of rocks. Now, wouldn't that look stupid? You'd be sitting there carrying a suitcase with no wheels now, because I know all these suitcases have wheels. You got a suitcase with no wheels, 2 of them, and you trying to go through the TSA line to get scanned through and stuff to get to the terminal. And here you are with just random bags full of rocks. That's what it is when you just carry on, the pains and stuff of the past. Not to say don't remember it, not to say it doesn't shape some of who you are, not to say that you just forget it. That's not what I'm saying at all. What I'm saying is when you carry it, right? You're the only person carrying it. So you being upset with somebody else, they're walking through TSA with no bags and they just walk through and they get scanned and go on. And you're still here toting these bags from 1980, 1985, 1990, 1995, 2000, 2004, 2008, 2016. You're still carrying these bags of rocks. Kill that, y'all. Go through the adversity, make yourself better, be better, and then help someone else be better. And if we do that, this thing is going to be excellent that we call life. So I'm your host, Champ Ron. This is the Minding Your Business podcast. Every Friday afternoon, I come with a new episode. You never know what I might come up with. So we're going to have another great episode on next week. Don't forget brooksbrothersconsulting.com. Don't forget to support a local business or someone around. Support your friends in business if they're doing it the right way. If you've got friends that aren't doing business the right way, pull them aside and share with them your feedback so that they can be better, right? Share with them the feedback in love, but fair and firm, that they need to be better, and here's some ways and come up with some best practices for them. So again, I'm your host, Champ Ron. This is the Minding Your Business podcast, and I'm out. Peace. Y'all have a great weekend, and let's continue to make things better.